The MLB season is in full swing, halfway home. While the Royals might be buried in the standings, what's happening around Major League Baseball and what can the Royals learn from the top teams in the league? All of this and more coming up on today's Locked On Royals podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your teams every day.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Royals podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Royals. Email the show lockedonroyals@gmail.com. On today's show, we're going to dive into what can be learned from the MLB season thus far. What can we see in the trends of the season so far? As the Royals season has gone off the rails a bit, what is still out there for the Royals to model themselves after to try to get back on track throughout this offseason? So we're going to touch on all of that, and it'll be a lot of fun to do so. As just a trip around Major League Baseball. We're going to do this weekly because, let's face it, I mean, the Royals season is over, but we got to get 5 shows. We got to talk baseball. So let's start comparing the Yankees, the Guardians and Twins. These teams are where we want to be in Kansas City. How are they doing it? How are they winning games? How are they constructing a roster? How are they utilizing a bullpen? How are they utilizing a pitching staff? What's their lineup strategy? How are things getting done in Major League Baseball that creates wins that the Royals aren't doing? Because we're going to dive into this tomorrow. Can small markets win games? That's our whole show tomorrow, is can small market teams win games in baseball? And there's been this poor, pitiful me attitude around Kansas City that I just don't agree with, because we're seeing small market teams win. We're seeing small market teams win in baseball every year. They're just doing things the right way, and the Royals are doing things the wrong way. And so instead of just saying that as this blanket statement, I want to dive deeper into kind of what we mean whenever people say the Royals are doing it wrong and next teams are doing it right. And to do that, we've got to burst the bubble of national baseball. Baseball is this regional sport right now. Baseball is being consumed at a high regional level, but nationally, it's not being talked about. Nationally, it's not being watched, consumed at all. There's a lot of local baseball fans. And that's where the misconception of baseball dying is perpetuated, is from the fact that most people, and look, you are probably different because you're listening to a baseball podcast on a Thursday afternoon for a team who's dead and buried. So you're different. But most people, they'll watch their local team or their childhood favorite team, but they won't just sit down and watch 2 totally random teams play baseball on a random Sunday night or on a random summer night. So since the national ratings don't get the attention and don't get the draw that local ratings do or that other national ratings do for other sports, people act like this sport is truly dying. Now, don't get me wrong. There is still a ton that baseball needs to improve upon, and there's still a ton that baseball does wrong. But the sport itself is not dying. It's just a local sport. That's all. But to further enhance the conversation around Kansas City, you have to get out of that regional bubble. And it's hard to. Look, if you're invested in the Royals, and you are, if you're hearing my voice right now on this podcast on a Thursday in June when the Royals are 12 games out, you can't possibly be asked to watch 162 Royals games plus the A's and Angels play. You just can't. You just can't. So that's how the sport gets regionalized into the playoffs. But I want to take time each week to talk on a national stage about what those teams that are having success doing besides winning baseball games. I mean, you have to win baseball games, but how is their roster put together? How do they acquire talent? It's not just signing free agents. That's not the only way to acquire talent. In fact, most teams haven't gotten the bulk of their talent that way. Most teams. So tomorrow we're going to spend the whole day talking about small market teams winning and the cons to being a small market, because there are a lot, how you combat those cons, and how likely you are to win in a small market. Because I'm sick of the defeatist attitude around Kansas City. You shouldn't be defeatist. You should be holding feet to the fire. That's what should happen in Kansas City. Well, let's take a trip around Major League Baseball. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Royals baseball. So thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen every single morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get podcasts from. Big day today on Thursday. NBA drafts tonight. So you can go check out the Locked On Ultimate Mock Draft for the NBA Draft. You can also check out tonight your favorite NBA team. Nuggets, Bulls, Thunder, Bucks, Mavs, whoever your favorite team is in Kansas City. Their Locked On show will be live after their picks are made to talk about the angle from media members within our network. I'll be at the Thunder practice facility for the draft. So I'll try to go live, but we'll see. We'll see exactly how that can go down. Now, let's get into the show. The Yankees are the hottest team in baseball right now. They are absolutely on a heater, and they have been fantastic. And while they're team in baseball, because they are the best team. They're 50-17. They are the first team to 50 wins. They're 9-1 in the last 10 games. Over the weekend, there was a 14-game winning streak, but that has been snapped, and that's been snapped by now. But so with that being snapped, I think that they're the hottest team in baseball with the 9-1 in the last 10 games as of the time we're recording this. And they're incredible. They look like this is going to be the year that they put it all together and actually win in the postseason. And the Yankees roster, sure, the Royals can't afford to go sign a Garrett Cole, who hasn't even really been, what he's used to. He's been a glorified coach this year. But they can't afford to go sign a Garrett Cole. That's one guy on the roster that you can't afford to go get. You can't afford a Aaron Judge. You can't afford a Giancarlo Stanton. But they've also done a lot of things well with developing Kyle Higashioka, developing Jose Trevino. The Royals can't afford Anthony Rizzo. They probably can't afford the contract that the Yankees gave to DJ LeMahieu. But they've also found good veterans to help produce, like Marwin Gonzalez. He's helping. Is he being a world beater? No, but he's helping in certain spots where they need him. He even had Matt Carpenter trotting around at one point. But the bullpen is mainly guys that they just acquired as a young, controllable piece. Nestor Cortez is in the starting rotation, being a great asset for them. But you have a Clay Holmes, who is a guy that the Royals could acquire. Not specifically Clay Holmes, but like the MO of Clay Holmes, how he was acquired, the Royals can do. But the Yankees, of course, are the big bad Yankees, and so you almost have to dismiss them. What I think should be the most frustrating is what Minnesota's doing, and we'll talk about that coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now about our friends over at Blue Nile. Introducing BlueNile.com, the original online jeweler for high-income adults, $100,000K a year. 100,000 and 100,000K a year is the same thing, but $100K a year primarily males 25 plus looking to get engaged or gift fine jewelry, visit the website and covet the Blue Nile jewelry. Folks, Blue Nile is incredible. Whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Blue Nile has simply the best online shopping tools to let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting the style. Blue Nile bench jewelers have handcrafted her perfect engagement ring. Each ring is one of a kind, a special bond between you and your partner. Celebrate life's special moments with fine jewelry. If you're looking for fine jewelry, but you're having trouble choosing, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find the memorable gift on every budget. So make sure you check them out today at BlueNile.com. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com and Locked On Sports. Listeners, get $50 off of a purchase of $500 or more. This podcast exclusively includes engagement rings. So use code Locked On. That's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, shipping fees, and arrives in discreet packaging. So you will not give away what's inside. You will not have to worry that she'll find out what that special thing is, or your partner will find out what that special thing is, because it arrives in discreet packaging. So shop stress-free, shop stress-free, and find your forever piece for BlueNile.com today. Check it out today, BlueNile.com. We're back on Locked On Royals podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm your host, Ron Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Royals. Email the show, LockedOnRoyals@gmail.com. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you. Talking Royals baseball. Look, you're at work today. It's a summer day, hot outside. You're at work, trapped away, working your job. And you're just stuck there. So why not let us entertain you at the Locked On Podcast Network? I've got just the podcast for you. The Locked On Chiefs podcast. It's a daily podcast talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. And on this week's episode, they're talking about what the chief defensive room looks like. Who are the locks to make the defensive roster? And who won't quite make the cut? It's a daily podcast talking about your Kansas City Chiefs. Subscribe right now as the offseason eventually comes to a close and they start to report into St. Joe's and get preseason underway, and then it's going to be the season before you know it. They're going to be daily on YouTube, Apple Podcast. Go find them. Go support them. Locked On Chiefs. Also, as I mentioned before, the NBA draft is tonight. Go check out Locked On Ultimate Mock Draft. Go check out the NBA draft shows for your favorite NBA teams. If you do like the NBA, follow along with your favorite team every single day, talking about the NBA and your favorite team. So we have a Locked On podcast for every team in baseball, every team in basketball, football. So whoever you like, you can just continue supporting and rolling on and getting info on your favorite teams. Around baseball, Yankees best team. I think that they're going to win the World Series, just me personally. But what Minnesota's doing is something that the Royals should be able to replicate. Minnesota's the first place team in the division. They've been consistently good. Obviously, have not had the playoff success, but they get there and they find ways to. They find ways to win and to produce. Last year was a down year for them, but but you take last year as an outlier, and they've been at the top of the division for a long time now. They went and got Chris Archer this offseason whenever he looked completely washed, and he has a sub-4 ERA. Chris Archer would be one of the best Royals pitchers this year. They got Dylan Bundy. That wouldn't break the bank. Sonny Gray should not break the bank for the Kansas City Royals. The Royals love to trot out, hey, look, we paid our minor leaguers. Hey, look, we signed Carlos Santana. You spend $1. In the grand scheme of things, paying the minor leaguers during the pandemic and signing Carlos Santana, those two things for Sherman, the owner, would be like you and I going to McDonald's and buying a McDouble. That's all he invested in this team. And they get away with it because, $8 million and $12 million sounds so highfalutin and so just, oh my gosh, they spent $50 million on Carlos Santana. In reality, when you really break it down, he bought a Big Mac. He bought a McDouble. Sonny Gray should not break the bank. They were able to offload the contract of Josh Donaldson to New York and take back Gary Sanchez and take back Gia Urshela. Urshela, again, would be one of the best hitters in the Royals lineup. And then the young guys have produced. They've gotten production from their young middle infielders. They did go out and spin on Carlos Correa, but are you telling me that the Minnesota Twins have deeper pockets than the Kansas City Royals? No, they're just willing to spend it. They're just willing to spend the money. The Minnesota Twins are not a bigger market than Kansas City. And if they are, then we really got to do some soul searching on what we consider Kansas City to be. Because guess what, folks? Kansas City is hosting NFL drafts. Kansas City is hosting the FIFA World Cup, the largest sporting event on the face of the earth they're hosting. That's not a small market. That's not a smaller market than Minnesota. If Kansas City had a domed stadium, which nobody wants for the Chiefs, but if they did, they'd host a Super Bowl too. Because I know that right now you're thinking, well, Minnesota's hosted a Super Bowl. You're hosting the World Cup. And if you didn't have to battle the elements in Kansas City at that time of year, you'd host a Super Bowl too. Just Minnesota did. So you're telling me that they're a bigger market and that they have deeper pockets? No, they have an ownership group that's willing to spend and willing to make the proper decisions needed to win baseball games. But a better example of this is the Cleveland Guardians. They sell off pieces. They're cheap. They want the owner removed. They don't like their owner. Guess what? They draft pitching. They develop pitching. They win baseball games. Think about what you thought about Cleveland 3 months ago. 3 months ago, you thought they were selling off their parts and tanking. They're second in the division. They're 1 game out of the division lead. It's possible to be here. Teams like the Angels who go spend money like it's going out of style find themselves 10 games back in their division. So don't give me the market size stuff with Kansas City. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. But coming up, let's continue talking about this MLB season. But first, let's talk Athletic Greens. AG1 is incredible, folks. Absolutely incredible. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. Contains 1 less gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, no artificial anything, while still tasting great. Supports better sleep quality, recovery, supports mental clarity, and alertness as well. Check them out today. It's one thing that has the best things. It's AG1 from Athletic Greens. You want to get your hands on this right now. It's the best product out there on the market with third-party testing and constant updates and new iterations. Make sure you try it out today. It costs less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health. It's cheaper for you than your cold brew habits. It's cheaper than getting all the different supplements that you need yourself. You're investing in your all-in-one nutritional insurance right now. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews. It's recommended by professional athletes, trusted by leading healthcare experts such as Tim Ferriss and Michael Gervins. So check it out today, AG1. To make things easy, AG1 Athletic Greens is giving a free 1-year supply to our listeners. So make sure you go check them out today by going to athleticgreens.com/MLB network, because you can get a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do is visit athleticgreens.com/LockedOnMLB. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/LockedOnMLB to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutrition insurance. And actually, that's athleticgreens.com/MLB network, athleticgreens.com/MLB network, just so you're squared away with that. We are back on the Locked On Royals podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Royals. We're talking about what's happening around Major League Baseball right now, and we're talking about who's succeeding and who is having a difficult time. The Royals, of course, difficult time. The Yankees, of course, are a team that finds themselves best in baseball and finds themselves, in my opinion, as the World Series favorites. I love what's happening in the NL East. If you did want to spend time watching good baseball this year instead of watching Kansas City, I'd highly encourage just watching any NL East matchup that does not involve Washington. I love the Mets this year. The Braves are hanging around. The Phillies went from disastrous to 2 games out of a playoff spot, which has been their run since firing Girardi has been incredible to watch. The Phillies are the most fun team in baseball to watch for my money. And then the Marlins are so much better than their record shows. So much better than their record shows. Look at their run differential. You look at their pitching staff. It's so fun to watch with Pablo Lopez and Sandy Alcantara. I love watching the Marlins play. So I would check out the NL East if I were you. The Central is just a muddy mess. Like, there's nobody that I would consider even good in that division. It's just that they're all kind of hanging around at the same clip. You have the Brewers and the Cardinals jockeying for first place. And then finally, the West is what we expected. Dodgers, Padres, Giants, just tooth and nail fighting out. The Padres have been another very fun team to watch. We'll see whenever Manny Machado can come back. That'll be a big deal as well for them. So that's your trip around baseball. We'll do this again next week. And then tomorrow we're going to end the week talking about if small markets can win in baseball. But until then, be good and be good to one another.